This is Escape from Horrorland, which is book 11 in the Goosebumps HorrorLand series by RL Stine. Chapter 23. Sabrina kissed the disgusting cheek, then she held onto the head, rubbing it gently, as if caressing it, soothing it. Carly Beth uttered a soft cry. Her knees folded, she dropped to the ground. Sabrina held onto her friend's green, rubbery face, petting the mask, petting it so tenderly. It takes an act of love, Sabrina said in a whisper, and then her fingers dug into the rubbery face, and with a sharp cry, she pulled up with all her strength and tore the mask off Carly Beth's head. The mask made a sick, wet sound as it slid off Carly Beth's face. Then, as Sabrina held it high over her head, it opened its mouth in a scream and echoed off the tall hedges. Sabrina heaved the mask over a hedge. She dropped to her knees and wrapped Carly Beth in a hug. Carly Beth blinked her eyes and shook her head. She coughed and cleared her throat. She looked dazed, as if she didn't know where she was. Finally, she turned to her friend. Sabrina, are you okay? Did I hurt you? Sabrina nodded. I knew it wasn't you, Carly Beth. I knew it was the evil of the mask. Do you see what's happening? Michael said. The monsters from the eggs, the haunted mask, all those things we defeated back home, they followed us here. And the only way to get home is to defeat them again? Matt asked. No one answered. I guess they were all thinking about the horrors they had faced before. We don't even know if we're going the right way, Julie said, her voice trembling. We could be going around in circles, and who knows what's waiting for us up ahead. We have no choice, Matt said finally. We can't go back. Byron said this maze will lead us to Horrorland. Matt's right, Robbie said. We can't stay here. We know we're in real danger. We have to keep going. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe right around the next corner. His voice faded. No one else wanted to speak. We started to walk, following the hedges. Birds cawed overhead. The sky was almost too black to see them. We turned and walked silently down a long, straight passage. What time is it? Jillian asked. Does anyone have a watch? Matt had a watch on a chain on his belt loop. He raised it and squinted at it. It says midnight, he said. Byron told us it's always midnight in this maze, Robbie said. We followed the curve in the hedges. Suddenly, the path led steeply downhill. The ground became sandy and soft. Tall reeds, waving in the breeze, blocked our way. We had to push the reeds aside to make our own path. Finally, the reeds ended in a sandy shore. Whoa, water, Luke cried. He stopped at the edge. We were on the shore of a small, round lake. The water was a velvety black under the starless sky. It lapped gently onto the sand at our feet. How do we get to the other side? Michael asked. Swim? Something was tossing out in the water. I heard a splash, a creaking sound. Squinting hard, I saw a dark shape come into focus. A ship. There's a boat out there, I said. Can you see it? See the sails moving against the sky? We all gazed out over the lake, and as we did, a cover of clouds pulled away from the moon. Pale light washed over the water, and we saw the ship clearly. An old-fashioned sailing ship with two tall masts. Its sails were unfurled, snapping in the breeze. The boat tilted in the water, rocking gently, and as the ship came into clear view, we heard voices. Low voices chanting together. The bones they creak, the bones they crack, the bones they creep, the men come alive in the briny deep. Come with us, come with the men, come meet your fate with Captain Ben. Oh no! Billy and Sheena both uttered sharp cries. Their mouths dropped open, and they exchanged quick, frightened glances. You were right, Michael, Sheena said. The horrible things we escaped from before, they followed us to Panic Park. We've heard the pirate chant before, Billy said. We know who that ship belongs to, a pirate who's been dead for 200 years. He calls himself Long Ben One Leg, Sheena said. Well, let's put it this way. He doesn't like Billy and me. This is bad news. We have to go back, Billy said. We don't want to mess with Captain Ben and his dead pirates. We can't go back, Matt told Billy. Do you want to stay here forever in this black and white world with those creepy shadow people floating around us? We have to get to the other side of this lake. Lights flickered on the ship. The sails cracked and snapped in the wind. We could hear men's voices, loud laughter. A strong gust of wind set the tall reeds behind us swaying from side to side. They made a creaking sound as the wind pushed them down. I saw something hidden in the swaying reeds. "Whoa, check it out," I cried. I went running along the shore. My shoes sank into the sand as I ran. The clouds covered the moon again, but I could see what I had found. 2 longboats, half buried in the sand, hidden deep in the reeds. The other kids hurried over to me. "Look, we can fit 8 in a boat. They're perfect," I said. "No way," Billy cried. "What do you plan to do? Row out to the pirate ship? Ask Captain Ben if it's okay to go to the other side?" The poor guy was shaking. He couldn't hide how frightened he was. His sister, Sheena, tossed back her dark hair and stared unhappily at the boats. "I don't think so," she said, shaking her head. "We can row around the lake," I said. "We can stay far away from that pirate ship. Look how dark it is." "Lizzie is right," Carly Beth said. "We'll sneak around the pirate ship. We'll stay as close to the shore as we can. The pirates will never see us." Billy and Sheena argued. They didn't want to do it, but they didn't want to be left behind either. Finally, they agreed to help. Working as quickly as we could, we dragged the 2 longboats into the water. They slid easily from the sandy shore and splashed almost silently into the lake. Then we piled in, 8 to a boat. We just fit. We found the oars in the bottoms of the boats. Luke and I were at the back of the first boat. I lifted a pair of oars and tested them in the water. The voices of the men on the ship drifted over the lake. I could hear angry shouts, a loud crash, then wild laughter. "They're too busy to look out at the water," I whispered to Luke. "They'll never notice us." Robbie worked his oars in front of our boat. I rowed from the back. The narrow boat moved slowly. We were low in the water because of our weight. I had to use all my strength to move us forward. We kept close to the shore. I could see the reeds bending, swaying in the wind. The cool air felt good on my hot, sweaty face. I pulled, raised the oars, and pulled. Suddenly the boat rocked hard. The bow rose up high, then slapped back down, sending up a spray of lake water. "Whoa," Robbie whispered from the front. "Something weird is going on." "Just row steadily," I said, "slow and steady." The wind muffled my voice. I don't know if Robbie heard me. We rocked again. The boat tilted high, then slammed down hard with a splash. I leaned over the side of the boat. Beneath us, the water was totally flat and gentle. Why was our boat bucking like a wild bronco? I turned and glanced back at the second boat. The boat rocked up as if hit by a wave. One of Matt's oars flew out of his hand and splashed into the water. Our boat roared up again, then crashed down. Abby cried, "This is crazy! Why are we bouncing like this? The water is flat." I leaned forward into the oars. I tried to concentrate on my rowing. Slow and steady, slow and steady. I let out a gasp as I realized the boat had sailed far from the shore. We rocked up and down, heading toward the center of the lake, heading toward the pirate ship. Turn it, I called to Robbie up front. "I can't," he cried. "Lizzie, I can't control it." I sank my oars in and pulled, straining to turn the boat back toward the shore. But Robbie was right. We weren't controlling it. It was like the boat had a mind of its own. Was it some kind of track? Was it programmed to sail back to the pirate ship? Well, that's where we were all heading. Both boats. We rocked wildly up and down and sailed steadily in a straight line to the ship. As we moved under the tall ship's cold shadow, I saw the pirates on the deck. There were at least a dozen of them. Most were skeletons wearing dark jackets and ruffled shirts. Their clothes were stained and torn. The rotting shirts barely covered their bones. Scraggly knots of long hair fell over their empty eye sockets. Clams and seashells clung to their scalps. They leaned over the rail, watching, white bones glowing in the pale moonlight, ready to greet us. In chapter 24. The bones they crack, the bones they creep, the men come alive in the briny deep. The pirates chanted as they pulled us one by one from the longboats onto their deck, chanting in a frightening, slow rhythm. Their voices were hoarse and dull, the voices of dead men. And I knew as long as I lived, I'd never forget the terrifying sound. Come with us. Come with the men. Come meet your fate with Captain Ben. The deck rocked gently in the water. We huddled together, staring at the grinning pirates. Their bones clattered as they moved. 2 of them had purple worms crawling in and out of their nostril holes. One of them still had some flesh on his face, sagging skin covered in green mold. Matt stepped forward. "What do you want?" he demanded. "We're not bothering you. Let us off this ship." The dead pirates uttered low grunts but didn't reply. They formed a line to hold us in place. One of them scratched his scraggly hair and it came off in his hand. Another pirate started to make coughing sounds. I gasped as he coughed up a big half-eaten snail and spit it onto the deck. "Are you going to let us go?" Matt repeated. Silence. The boat creaked beneath us. I could hear the water lapping at the sides and the hard thumping of my heartbeat. The chanting voices still rang in my ears, and the dead stare from those deep, empty eye sockets was too horrifying to believe. I shut my eyes, but the pirates wouldn't go away. "Can you take us to the other side?" Billy asked in a tiny, frightened voice. "We just want to get to the other side of the lake. Can you take us there?" The pirates tilted their skulls back and laughed, dry, choking laughter that sounded more like vomiting than laughing. They stopped laughing suddenly. I heard scraping footsteps on the deck behind them. The pirates stumbled and staggered out of the way. They backed to the deck rail, their bones cracking and creaking. A smiling pirate stepped forward, leaning on a crutch. He had a whole face, but his skin was wrinkled and flaky. As he came closer, I saw that his eyes were watery like poached eggs, and sunken deep in his head. He wore a long black coat with gold buttons down the front. His sailor pants were nearly in shreds. His wooden leg tapped the deck as he limped toward us. His thin mustache rose as a smile spread over his face. His teeth were ragged and brown. "It's Captain Ben," Billy told the rest of us. The pirate did a low bow. "At your service," he rasped. His voice sounded as if it came from underwater. His sunken eyes slid over us and stopped at Billy and Sheena. "Well, well, mates, here you be again," he boomed. "Let us go," Sheena cried. "We're not here to bother you." Captain Ben snickered. "Here you be again," he repeated. His mustache rose up and down like a wriggling worm above his mouth. "What do you want?" Billy demanded. The pirate took a step closer. "The menace promised us revenge," he rasped. "Who?" Billy and Sheena cried in unison. "Who is the menace?" Billy asked. Captain Ben snickered again. "Too bad you won't live long enough to find out."